the Georgia Senate Republicans, they're doing it again, Shannon. They are doing it again. They are proposing legislation, passing legislation to prevent the bluing of Georgia.
Wait. What? Where did? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Georgia
yes,
Senate
they're trying to
Republicans.
limit. They're trying to limit mail voting. Yes, which will then in turn limit voting. Got it. Okay.
This has been a very frustrating talking point when it comes to Republicans because it is so obviously true that I'm embarrassed at people who defend it. Even if you like Republicans, like I don't hate Republicans. I am a very pro diverse political thinker. There are many conservative and Republican policies that I think are wonderful. But you are kidding yourself if you lie and pretend like Republicans don't create these shady ass laws and legislation because they look, the Republican political strategy to win anything is limit voting turnout to like, I don't know, 45%, and then hope to squeeze by. Like, it's not to spread their ideology to as many people as possible. It's to make it as difficult as possible for people to participate in the political process and then push our people out. And with the combination of the two, we'll be able to squeeze out these elections, especially when it comes to presidential elections. I mean, even someone who is sympathetic to the Republican cause, like I am, can be honest and admit that. And so whenever these stories come out, I'm always stunned at people who defend these things.
Why are you still holding that knife, by the way? You're just swinging it around. And
I don't know. I like it.
Okay.
I like it. So the bills introduced Monday, that was early this week, will restrict who can vote absentee by mail, require a photo ID for those who do vote absentee by mail, ban ballot drop boxes, and block outside groups from sending out absentee ballot applications.
For
other
what?
Proposals
to prevent voter fraud that didn't exist in the first place. Anyway.
Okay. All right, Shane, that's a lot. Other proposals would end automatic voter registration when obtaining a driver's license and ban new residents from voting in a runoff election.
This sounds very, very oppressive.
So the last one didn't bother me that much. Banning new residents from voting in a runoff election, I think that's fair.
Okay.
Right? Like,
what about everything else?
So I'm against automatic voter registration.
Okay. Why is that?
Because I think you should make the decision to participate in a democracy.
Okay, that's true.
Now, I'm with making voting. I'm for making voter registration as painless as possible.
Okay.
So, but I don't think
that there's anything wrong with automatic voter registration, because just because you're registered to vote doesn't mean that you have to.
Yeah, but I mean, just look, we live in a democracy. Mm-hmm. I'm just uncomfortable by automatically doing anything. Like it feels like you're taking away somebody's power of choice.
Okay.
I remember woo, say that word for me, Shannon.
Register. Oh my God. Registering. Registering.
Yeah, I couldn't say it either.
Registering.
I remember registering to vote. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty dope moment in my mind. A cool moment. I remember it. It was a significant event. I don't want to take that away from people. So the last two, I'm not that upset about. Now, block outside groups from sending out absentee ballot applications.
What does outside groups mean? What does that mean?
I'm guessing people who aren't Georgians. So, like, remember for the runoff election, how a bunch of people came into the state to register people to vote and to send out ballots and things. This would prevent them from being able to send out the ballots applications.
Okay.
How do you feel about voting by mail in general?
I personally don't trust it.
Me neither.
But they're trying to block it out because, I mean, I guess they don't trust it either. So never mind. That's. I don't trust it because I think that like it's easy to be tampered with, which I guess is the same reason that they
you sound like
don't
you
want
agree.
it. But I think it's also I'm not in favor of removing it, especially in.
Well, they're not either. They're
Okay.
just saying restrict who can vote absentee by mail.
Okay, so who are they restricting from voting by mail?
People who don't have a photo ID.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, don't you need a photo ID to do everything? So I feel like that's
You don't actually, which is shocking. I thought the same thing as you because we live in New York City, but apparently in a bunch of places they don't have, like for example, for those of you who don't live in New York City, in New York, you go everywhere with your ID.
Yeah, you have to.
Everywhere. You don't travel without a photo ID. And if you are under the age of having an ID, you better travel everywhere with your student ID. That's not the case in a bunch of other cities or states, Shannon. I think we forget that.
Oh,
and
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, like when I go to vote, I always give them my ID because it's easier for them to find my name instead of just me saying it, and then I gotta spell out how my first name is spelled, and all that stuff. I just give my ID. It has my address on it, has my name, so they can go through my voter book, sign out. Now, people would say that requiring photo ID is voter suppression because certain people can't get photo identification. I do remember it being a pain in the ass getting a photo ID from the DMV. I had to go back and forth like a bunch of times before I got my first photo ID. You need like a social security number and something that proves your address. And
yeah, but I feel like you have to, like, if you're voting by mail, I feel like you need to have an ID. Otherwise, how do you prove your identity? I feel like that's necessary to do.
I agree. You know what it might be? It might be the fact that maybe because I think me and you are kind of coming to this realization that we agree with more of these policies than we feel comfortable admitting to in this podcast. But maybe it's because I don't like where this is coming from. Right?
Well, yeah, it's coming from a place of trying to suppress the voters, but the policy in itself, like, it makes sense. Like, if anyone else was suggesting it.
But then if I'm requesting a absentee ballot and you mail it to my house, isn't that proof enough that I am who I say I am?
I mean, I guess so. Proof of mail. I mean, I guess proof of address. But
okay, so what do we think about banning ballot drop boxes?
No, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, where else am I supposed to drop off the goddamn ballot?
Yeah.
Where am I supposed to drop it off at? That makes no sense. See, here's the thing. I believe. Okay, so I'm gonna give you more context. So the bill is called Senate Bill 67, and so it says Senate Bill 67. And by the way, this article is from PBS.org. Would require that a voter provide either their driver's license number or personal ID card number, or provide a photocopy of their ID when applying for an absentee ballot.
Okay, wait. Read that one more time.
It said Senate Bill 67 would require that a voter provide either their driver's license number or personal ID card number, or provide a photocopy of their ID when applying for an absentee ballot.
I feel like that's fair.
Me too.
That is very fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take back what I said about Republicans.
I mean, I'm not gonna take back what I said about Republicans, but I feel like that's fair.
So maybe the second part is what I disagree with. So there's another bill called Senate Bill 71. So it says Senate Bill 71 would limit who is allowed to vote absentee by mail, a method currently available to any Georgian without needing an excuse. So right now, any Georgian can vote by mail.
Okay, so that I disagree with too. I feel like there shouldn't be any restrictions on who can and can't do that.
Okay, so let me just finish reading. The bill would only allow absentee voting under particular circumstances, including for voters who are 75 or older, have a physical disability, or will be absent from their precinct on the date of the election. The bill doesn't mention global pandemics as a blanket excuse. And see that I disagree with as well.
Yeah, I disagree with that whole thing. I don't
I,
think that you should be limited at all or restricted.
so let me ask you a question. So if we agree on the photo ID as kind of a prerequisite to request absentee ballots, do you worry about kind of forcing people to carry identification? Because once again, it happened to us, and we think it's normal. But there was a time where like, you had an expectation of anonymity, meaning people couldn't just take your wallet and find out your name. That's kind of weird if you think about it. The fact that Shannon, if you got shot, right, I would know your name, first name, your last name, and where you live like that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about it because it's become normalized to us. But do you worry that by attaching for a photo ID to absentee ballot voting, that you kind of are contributing to this new society where everyone can be identified at any point of time?
I actually don't have a problem with having to have your ID with you at all times. I really think that you need to be able to identify yourself at any moment. So I don't really.
I forgot you're a communist.
How am I a communist? I guess it's because I've just grown up that way, where it's like it's instilled in me that I always need to have my ID. But it's like if you're without your ID, how do you prove who you are if you don't have it?
But that's the point. Why do I need to prove who I am?
I mean,
like for years, that was not the standard. Like, why do I need to prove to you who I am?
For security reasons. I don't know.
Well, you're a regular citizen.
I mean, I guess, but I feel like you still need to prove who you are. I feel like you need the proof. Like, what if you? I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. Maybe because I don't know a life without that, so I don't really know the other side of it.
I might be okay with this because it is for absentee ballot voting, and so if you don't want to have to submit an ID, you can kind of just go to the polls. Do I think it should be a requirement? Now, here's the thing. Establishing a voter ID system would help with what I want to do, which is extend voting on like maybe a citywide level or a statewide level. I haven't thought about it, but for me, I think I should be able to vote in New York City anywhere I want to. So, for example,
oh, you mean aside from your polling site?
Yeah, like
okay.
If I'm at work, like some people work long hours, and so the only time they would probably be able to vote would be like during their lunch break. Mm-hmm. And so if during their lunch break they want to go into this place to vote, why should they not be able to just because they are not in their precinct?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
The precinct thing kind of binds you to this one particular place in voting, which can also contribute to longer voting lines. Versus if we had a voting system where you vote, if you live in the city of Atlanta, you can vote anywhere in Atlanta. If you live in the city of New York City, you can vote anywhere in the city.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But then to do that, I would have to take your position, which is because a voter ID would be the only way for us to all be in this one database.
Yeah.
And so that's the only that's possible. So I don't know. I don't think Senate Bill 67 is that problematic. Senate Bill 71, I think that's crazy. I don't like the reasoning behind Senate Bill 67. And there's a conversation.
I'm sorry, which one is that again? If you're just referring to it by number, I don't remember.
Okay, so 67 is the one about the ID and ballots. 71 is restricting who can vote using the ballot. There's a conversation that needs to be had about why people think that voter ID laws are discriminatory. Like, I don't think Black people are incapable of getting an ID.
They're not. No one's incapable of getting an ID if you're a legal citizen. So.
Yeah. So then why is that constantly cast as being anti-voting by requiring for voter ID?
Wait, what do you mean?
No, I'm saying, so voter ID laws, many people on the left view them as being voter suppression tactics.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why that is. Because I don't view it as that either. It's not hard to get an ID. Anyone, if you are a citizen, you're not going to get denied for getting an ID. You just have to bring the right documentation with you. So I don't really understand why that is suppression.
Yeah. I don't know. I
Like
don't
you have to pay.
understand
You
it.
have to pay for an ID. Does it cost anything? I don't remember.
Hell yeah.
You do? How much does it cost?
I don't.
Like just a regular ID, like not even a driver's license.
How much does it cost to get a state ID? All right. So in New York, if you're under the age of 62, it costs $13 to get a state ID.
13?
Yes.
Okay, that's not expensive, but again, you know what's funny? Because if you're home, okay, so say if you're homeless, right, and you have no money and you don't have an ID, I see where the problems come in with that.
How? I mean, homeless people don't vote.
They don't, right? That's what I was wondering. I didn't know the answer to that either.
I mean, they probably
Or do
but,
they? Yeah.
I mean, who are you voting for?
I don't know, but that's besides the point. But like, what if you don't have an ID and you're a homeless person and you can't get access to one, so then you can't vote?
That is a very interesting problem. Though I don't know what percentage of homeless people actually vote. I don't know that number. I don't even. I doubt there's a study on it. Who would care?
I don't know.
Unfortunately, we treat homeless people like background noise,
which is a problem.
It is a problem. That's why I did the show that I did. But as you Google, whatever you're Googling, my thing would be yes.
Oh, it says as few as 1 in 10 homeless people vote in elections. Okay.
Yeah, but depending on where you are, that could be enough to swing an election.
Mm-hmm.
1 in 10, and if you got like I don't know, 800, 900.
Okay, so in 2012, 10% of homeless people voted. That was on. Do we have a current study? By the end of 2020.
But there will be no way for homeless people to vote though, because even if they didn't have to do the state ID stuff, they don't have a house, so they don't have.
Yeah, they
don't
have registered. Yeah, so they don't have a zoning district. You're right. Okay.
But then that will be a problem because they're still Americans, so they should still be able to vote. And so if we have voting systems that require a place to live, then you're kind of creating a privileged class where if you don't have a place to live, then you cannot vote.
Yep.
I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong that prisoners can't vote.
That prisoners can't vote?
Yeah. Why can't a prisoner vote?
I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that, actually.
Is a prisoner not American?
I mean, a prisoner is an American, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I actually don't know. I have no stance, so I'm not even going to say anything about it.
Yeah.
Before you try to come from my head.
I'm just saying. I think cops should vote. I think prisoners should vote. I definitely think people who are free but used to be prisoners should be able to vote. Like I'm against all those, but that's not of course, Shannon. There's a bunch of laws in various places that if you were ever convicted of a felony,
well, that's stupid.
Well, some will say that you not being sure about whether prisoners should be able to vote is also stupid.
Yeah, probably, but I just don't know about it. But I'm just saying. But if you're no longer in prison, you should not be restricted from voting.
Maybe we can have it if you are in prison. Yeah, I just think prisoners should be able to vote. I don't view voting as this moral thing. I think you should have
it's just a right as a citizen.
Yeah, you're a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
You live on American soil. And you are a citizen. But I would never fight for the prisoner thing before we solve the homeless thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, that's what I have to say about that.